name stencil customiser. There's lots of options. I wanted to make it really customizable so that people that are making these for children with disabilities and various ages can make a lot of adjustments to suit various needs. So here is where you type in your name. I'm going to go with the name Raymond. Um, just be aware there's some alternative glyph options here. Type in the symbol instead of the letter you want to get the alternative. If you look on the MakerWorld listing, you'll see examples of them. So I'm just going to use the standard ones here. Raymond is my name, and let's look at the customizations we can do. We can change the size. The default 40 is the smallest I would recommend going. I've test printed 40 for lots of different things. The bridges are strong enough. Um, it's withstood children using them unless they're deliberately trying to break them. Um, and a pencil or a pen will fit in the channels. However, for younger children, it's a bit better to go a bit bigger. That way they can fit a bigger writing implement in as well. So I'm going to go 45, maybe 50. Let's try 50 and see. Letter gap changes the space between the letters, but I'll generate this and see what it looks like first and see if I need to change that. Here we go. That's looking okay. And I can see that this is a little bit squished here, so it won't print well because there won't be enough space between the colours there. I'm going to shift the A over a little bit. So I'll do that. There's two options. You can either just try increasing the letter gap between all the letters and see if it looks right, and it automatically adjusts the plate size as well, the base plate of the stencil. Look, that looks a lot better, I think, but I still want to move the A over a little bit. So to do that, close that down. I'm going to go to letter adjustments down the bottom. And this works by, you can shift each letter left or right. It's based on the place of the letter. So that's in second place. So I go to number 2 here. I'm going to shift it left just a little bit, generate and see what it looks like. Fantastic, perfect, straight away. I'll close that down. Now some other options I have. I can go to border. I can increase the padding at the top or the sides. Now I don't really have space for that with this long name, but increasing these can be good for if you've got a child that has reduced movement or something like that and they need help, they need more to grip onto to hold the stencil down. Increasing that is good for that. Corner radius, that is affecting these corners here. Edge chamfer, now the default prints without supports, but you might like it better with no chamfer, or more of a chamfer, but make sure you check it in the slicer and see what it will look like and see if it's telling you need supports. Text Y offset will move the text up and down. For this name, it's fine because it's designed for ascenders and descenders to sit equally. But say if you've got a name that just had a capital letter and then all of these short letters, you might want to shift it down a bit. Now, what other options are there? Now we've got print options. There's a range of things here. So show arrows turns the arrows off. Show inserts puts the coloured inserts in the engraved holes. If you take off show inserts, it just has the engraving there. Now this is good for doing just change at layer height prints, so if you don't have an AMS or you want to reduce wastage, but it's also good just for having a really low clutter kind of thing. So you can still see the arrows when they're using it, but it's not as visually cluttered, which can be good for some kids. The other option is you can print face down. Now, all that does is just flip it. It just saves you having to do it later in the slicer. And arrow expand expands these arrows a little bit to make them thicker. Be careful when you do this because you may not end up with enough room between the edge of your cutout and the arrow. So just check carefully when you change those settings. You can adjust the steps of the walls. Now that's what I'm going to do for this one because it's for a little kid and they will use a texter likely, so we want a bit more space between them. The taper is designed so that the pencil is held at an angle and can move around at an angle, giving a much better natural grip for the learner. But I'm going to reduce it a little bit for this one down to a 5. And you can see what that does. It just opens up this a little bit. It does affect the strength of these a bit because there's less filament there between them. So it's a bit of a trade-off. But because this is bigger, I can do that. If this was a smaller size, it might make the bridges too weak. You just have to play around with that. This corner round, what that does is affect the rounding here. So if I turn that off, you'll see what it does. These are very pointy, they're difficult to print nicely, and they can get stuck on the pencil. So, but if I increased it a lot, then the letters look a bit of a different shape. But you play around with it and see what works for your learners and the implements you're using as well. So you see, I'm going to pop it back just to the default. And one more change I'll make is printing face down for this one. So I'm going to go back up to face down and then I'm ready to export. There we go. And download, select your printer and download as the 3MF so the color information stays in the file. Enjoy and I would love to see your creations.